So today we're going to be talking about how to get started in federal contracting. And that can be an amazing barrier to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people get turned off at the idea of federal contracting because they think it's either impossible to do or that they'd be doing it alone or something like that. So we want to give you the basics today. If you look on things like my LinkedIn, there is more information about most of the things we talk about today. Or as Marla said, please reach out anytime. I work for you. I am a public servant. Excuse me. So you're never bothering me. It's nothing like that. Please reach out anytime with any questions. So why would you want to get started in federal contracting? I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. It's dealing with the US government. It can be very frustrating in a lot of ways. It is, however, big, big business. The federal government is the largest purchaser of goods and services on the planet. So we are talking an extraordinary amount of money that is on the table here. For example, we're going to talk in a moment about how the budget is generally allocated, but last year alone, Health and Human Services spent $942.5 billion. The Department of Transportation, who had a much smaller portion of the budget, spent $156.3 billion, and 23% of that, which is $35.9 billion, was earmarked for small businesses just like yours. So we are talking an amazing amount of money that is quote unquote on the table once you go through the process of going through these first sign up bits. I mentioned a moment ago that we were going to talk about this. This gives you a snapshot of where things are actually being purchased in the US government. And I think a lot of people get turned off by the idea of federal contracting because they have it in their mind that we only buy battleships and bullets, or we only buy X. And that's really not fair. The federal government purchases almost everything. It's just a matter of how much. In addition, I think a lot of people see the news and everything like that, and they get an idea in their head that the vast majority of the federal budget goes to the DoD. Oddly, that is not true. You can see up here that this is how in the past year, the numbers have come down in terms of who's spending the most. It does change a bit. COVID had moved some things around, but in general, the vast majority of the federal budget actually goes to HHS, Health and Human Services. It doesn't go to the DoD. So, and HHS hires administrators. They hire humans that have nothing to do with defense. So please don't get this idea that because you don't follow in a pigeonholed idea of what typically sells to the government, what you think sells to the government and what sells to the government may not be the same at all. I mentioned a moment ago that 23% of the federal Department of Transportation budget last year went to small businesses. And that actually turned out to be around $35.9 billion that was automatically earmarked for small business. And we're going to talk about what that really means in a moment. But for your purposes, what you need to know as a big picture is there are goals that every single agency, regardless, transportation, energy, DoD, the Smithsonian Institution, which is oddly enough an agency, any of these, when they are allocating budget dollars, they have to spend certain amounts with certain types of businesses. And this is congressional. They can get in very deep trouble if they don't. We've always traditionally had the same basic goals. You're going to see on the left-hand side of the screen, traditionally 23% of the federal budget is automatically earmarked for small businesses just like yours. 5% of the federal budget has always gone to women-owned small businesses since we began that program. We have, again, 5% of 8A or small disadvantaged businesses. We'll talk about what that means. 3% of the federal budget is earmarked for service disabled vets. And 3% was this wonderful hub zone thing, which we talked about last time. I'm going to mention it briefly today, but that's the goal we never hit. However, I wanted everyone to be aware, while the largest portion of the budget does not go to the DoD, the DoD has a yearly bill called the NDAA. That is the National Defense Authorization Act. And that is basically the DoD telling Congress, this is how we're going to spend our budget. The Department of Defense in the 22 NDAA has changed and upped those numbers. You're going to see on the right-hand side of the screen, these are the proposed new numbers for everyone within the DoD. So you'll see even more small business, even more small disadvantaged business. There is more of everything being carved out for businesses like yours. So this is really the perfect time to get involved in small business contracting. Again, why would you want to do this? I mean, it is admittedly in a lot of areas a fair amount of work. If for no other reason, you may want to think about the possibility of becoming involved in federal contracting because it is a great way to diversify your portfolio. A lot, if not everybody on this call, was probably negatively affected by the recent COVID-19 pandemic. I work for the SBA. I don't speak banker, I speak lawyer. But if you need somebody to ask about your PPP, your EIDL, any of those things, I can get you help. But almost everybody was impacted in one way or another by COVID-19 in the commercial market. Everything shut down. If you had government contracts during that same period, the government didn't shut down. We never shut down. Unless Congress has not budgeted us, we are always up and running, and we bought everything, every bit as much during COVID as we would normally, if not more. So you frequently see that the way the market balances out is if there's an extraordinary strife for one reason or another in the commercial market, COVID-19, Katrina, the stock market crashes, things like that, the government keeps buying regardless of wind or rain or anything like that. So it can be a great way to make sure that you can pay the rent if something like COVID, God forbid, happens. So I said early on that we were going to discuss something called set-asides. What is a set-aside? That's a completely useless phrase to most people. I had said that 23% of the federal budget is automatically carved out by law for small business. Just blanketly, they have to meet this, or Congress can actually take action against an agency who has not given sufficient amount of their budget to small business. And those parts of the budget that are carved out for different groups are called set-asides. So you're going to see we have the grand total of 23% of the whole budget is set aside for small businesses. But there are other little groups that come in and they want their own piece of this cheese. So it may be possible that even under your 23% of the budget that's guaranteed to you, there may be additional programs that you can look at to find more contracts. What is the point of set-asides? Set-asides are basically created because even the government recognizes that certain groups or certain persons have never had fair opportunity. Right out of the gate, They have less access to capital. They have less access to contracts. They may have less access to things like educational opportunities. In many cases, these are minorities, although not always. So the federal government basically created this program where we cut out the budget for smaller businesses to level the playing field. We realized that just the way things are stacked, small businesses, and particularly minority-owned small businesses, do not get the share of the budget as, say, your Dell, Lockheed, these huge businesses. So the small business set-asides are basically to answer all those times that you didn't get the contract because you're Black American, you're woman, you're down Philly in an area where no one wins contracts, whatever it may be. One, but only one of the ways that the federal government gets this money to different small businesses like yours is something that a lot of people kind of hear rumors about, called a sole source, which is also known legally as a non-competitive contract. In certain situations, whereas normally everything that the federal government buys has to look at things like best value and lowest price and things like that, in certain situations, we can bend those rules, again, trying to level that playing field. We can bend those rules and give a contract directly to, say, your business. And it would be, say, the United States Army reaching out to me and saying, I want to give a contract to blank's business. This is not frequent. It is not frequent because, among other things, we're supposed to get best value. And if you offer to one company, obviously you don't get the price competition that you would normally get. But the federal government has decided there are certain groups who have been so unfairly treated, it's fair to just give them a contract straight out of the gate. And you do see some of that in HubZone, rarely, but that is most famous within our 8A program, which we're going to talk about in a moment. The opposite of a set-aside is something called full and open competition. If something goes out on, we'll talk about in a moment, SAM, to be purchased, generally speaking, it goes something called full and open, which means anybody who can supply that item or service can bid. Large business, small business, anybody that wants in can bid on that. And those can be great from the government side, because I, in this chair, am like, oh, obviously you get best price when people compete, you can get innovation. It's great for the government, but it isn't so great for small businesses who may find themselves in a position of bidding against these giants. However, do remember on this side, these giant companies are not always the most efficient. They tend to have very high overhead costs and things like that, so they may not be price competitive as you think. So please never put yourself out of a running of a full and open just on the basis that you're fighting against big guys. Big guys don't always win. There are two ways that you can do business with the federal government. First of all, there is something called prime contracting. That means that you go out onto one of our websites, say SAM, and you see an opportunity that you want. You go out, you bid it, you win. You are a direct contractor to the United States government. Conversely, it may be that you don't want an actual contract with the US government. It can be a lot of paperwork. It can be risky in terms of amount of money putting together things. It can be risky in terms of if something goes wrong, you've had something go wrong with the United States government, not something going wrong with Bob down the street. So prime contracting can be great if you're willing to take on all the burdens and benefits of working with the government. Not everyone's willing to do that. And it may be that for your company, the best idea is something called subcontracting. That basically means, I love to pick on Lockheed Martin because Lockheed is around the corner from my office, but that would be something like if you sold a bob, a widget, a screw, a nail that holds, say, the wing on a plane of Lockheed, you may have a contract with Lockheed who has a contract with the federal government. So you may be providing wings or something like that for a larger piece. That can be great because you don't have that same, oh my God, I have a contract with the government, but just be aware, we don't have the same coverage. So if something goes wrong, I can do a lot less to help you if you're a subcontractor. So how do you start with federal contracting? I mean, we were talking about that today, and it can be very daunting to know where it is that you can even step off. So really the answer comes down to follow the yellow brick road. The yellow brick road in this case is a giant website called SAM. That is the System for Award Management. It is administered by the General Services Administration. And every single company who wants to do business with the federal government has to be registered in SAM. It generates you something called a cage code. That's how we pay you. And it's just how we keep track of everyone. We make sure that they're not debarred, anything like that. You can get a SAM profile for free. You have to sign up through login.gov. That's a one login thing that we just did in the government, but you have to put your data into SAM or nothing is any good at all. We can help you put data into SAM. We'll talk about that, but please be aware that this is the gateway and nothing can happen until you're in SAM. Additionally, be aware, SAM has just gotten rid of the DUNS number. That is the Dun and Bradstreet number that you may use to represent your company in a lot of things. We now have something called a UEI, that is a unique entity identifier. I can help you get those information, but again, that is something that is free. So please, if people are asking you for money, timeout, defense, come see someone like me. To get involved in federal contracting, I really would like to urge everybody to have something called a capability statement. This is something essentially like your elevator pitch, only on paper. This is a leave behind that can be really key to getting your product or service across to agencies. I just helped teach a class at Temple about capability statements. We may look at one with PIDC, but please be aware, in addition, if you have a capability statement, I am happy to look over everything for free. I can grammar check it. I can look at it. I can give suggestions of how to do a better capability statement. So you'll see my information at the end. Please be aware when we're talking about small business certification, that has a weird suggestion that there is a small business certificate, that you will get a piece of paper that arrives. Unfortunately, that is not true. These are basically all reflected in your SAM profile, that thing I talked about a moment ago. So we have a couple of different set-asides. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly today because I have classes available on every single one of them. Just feel free to reach out. First of all, our probably most famous item is our 8A program. That is our flagship program for small, economically and socially disadvantaged businesses. Generally, those businesses fall into one of 5 categories. That is Black American, Native American, Hispanic American, Subcontinent Asian American, and Pacific Asian American. However, if you do not fall into one of these categories, you may still qualify under something called a preponderance of evidence standard. We need to hear your story. What do you get from 8A? 8A is a 9-year program where someone in my office or somebody in your local office will actually teach you how to do business with the federal government. It's like having a BLS on your staff. I'm happy to give you more information, but one of the things you have to realize is, like I said, you have to be both socially and economically disadvantaged to get into 8A. Economically disadvantaged means something very different to the federal government than it means to everyone else. Research through our couch cushions and find billions of dollars. So this is what we mean by economically disadvantaged for the purposes of both 8A and our EDWOSB, our economically disadvantaged woman-owned business. If you meet the requirements of 8A, like I said, those 5 big minorities, that social, that economic disadvantage, but you don't want to go through the process of applying to 8A, which can take 90 days. It can take various go back and forth with the government. There's something called an SDB, small disadvantaged business. This is very similar to at the state level, something like an MEE or a SBD or small business SBE, small business enterprise. Basically, it means that you are a minority. However, you do not want to take the additional or cannot take the additional steps to become an 8A. Sam is going to ask if you're an SDV, just click it off. Women-owned small business. I've just taught a bunch of classes for Women's Business Month on WOSB. I'm always happy to come back to PIDC if someone's interested. But what you need to realize about the Women-Owned Small Business Program is, I mentioned earlier that generally set-asides are to level the playing field for a minority. Women are not a minority. We're actually the majority. There are more women than men. So for the Women-Owned Small Business set-aside, what we ended up doing is, instead of going through and saying anything can be for women, we've had to pull out separate NAICS codes, which are North American Industrial Classification System codes. We look through the specific codes only where women have not had a fair chance. There are a lot of places where women have traditionally had pretty fair opportunity. We pulled out the codes where we don't. And generally, that's going to be your STEM, that's going to be construction, environmental remediation, cars, whatever it is that you think that's traditionally male, we pulled those out. To be a WOSB, you have to meet a number of requirements, including United States citizenship and 51% or more ownership in the WOSB. I'm going to put this up today. If you have more questions, please feel free to see my LinkedIn or reach out anytime for more about WOSB. But please realize, if you're not in one of these fields where women have not traditionally had fair opportunity, big boy construction, things like that. If you are not in a field that women have not had fair opportunity in, it may not benefit you to register as a WOSB at the federal level because you're never going to get contracts. It's not that you won't win, it's just that the federal government doesn't feel you need the WOSB help. WOSB at the federal level is really only for women in career fields where it really does not pay to be a girl. And I can get you the list of which codes are on which side. Hub Zone program I talked about just last week. It is the rare and very understood program. It is basically a program where we try to get contracts into areas that don't typically get contracts. Either high unemployment and low revenue in a city, or one of those counties way out in Western Pennsylvania that is mostly wolves or mostly cows. You have to have a principal office in a hub zone, and 35% of your employees must live in a hub zone. It does not have to be the same hub zone. It can be 2. How or more? How do you find out if you're in one of these hub zones? There's a map. You're going to get a copy of these slides. There is a link on the top left corner, but you just go to this map. You'll see enter address there. type in your address, and bam, it'll tell you immediately here on the left-hand side what is or is not qualified. So just go through, put your addresses in, and you can see immediately whether or not you may qualify for HubZone. I'm happy to talk to anyone about their possible designation. If you are a vet, there are contracts set aside for you because thank you for your service. We believe that you paid us, so now we're hoping to pay you. If you are service disabled, 3% of the federal budget is set aside for companies like yours. Any percent of service disability is fine. If you are non-service disabled but a vet, there are only set-asides, unfortunately for you, in the Veterans Administration. I'm happy to speak to anyone offline about the ins and outs of the veteran program, but do be aware, currently you sign up for veteran certification through the VA if you want to do higher level. That is moving to the SBA soon. So even if you don't come to me right now, you may end up coming to me in January because it's going to be our problem then. It can be terrifying to get involved in federal contracting. You get loads of emails from people saying, if you don't pay me $1,000, you're going to go to jail. Or you get emails from bad companies who want to take advantage of a small business to win contracts or something like that. And please be aware, a lot of people get worried about calling me and bothering me, or they're afraid that a question is going to seem stupid. Please know, whatever it is that you do, you are a subject matter expert in that. If you're in, say, construction, I would never in a trillion years try to build something without calling somebody in construction and asking questions, because otherwise it's going to burn down, fall over, and sink in the swamp. Conversely, please, if you're in construction and you have a question about federal contracting, do not hesitate to call me. There is no such thing as a stupid question. It's just a matter of where my expertise is versus where your expertise is. I mentioned this in passing, but this is such a huge thing, and I see so many people fall for this, and I feel terribly. Please, particularly once you register in SAM, be aware there are a lot of not entirely ethical companies who may or may not try to take advantage of your small business. First and foremost, I would like to point out that if you are going for, say, your HubZone certification, you can see those 3 red arrows. Those are companies, private entities who paid Google to appear above the United States federal government. We're the one with the star further down. They paid a lot of money hoping that people exactly like you would type in quickly and see HubZone certification and go to their website and probably pay them money. Additionally, there will be all sorts of bad big businesses, or sometimes other small businesses, who, like the land shark, are just land shark. They are going to come up and circle you like sharks in the water because they smell a new small business, and they'll be like, hey, you want to bid this contract and you don't have to do any of the work. You're just kind of going to help us out. Or, hey, you have to pay $400 to recertify as a HubZone. Or, hey, and yes, thank you, Allison. Anytime you see an email with a .com address, please throw on the brakes, and if nothing else, reach out to me, because all real government mail has .gov. You'll notice at the end, my email and my second's email are there. I'm jennifer.tilden@sba.gov. If you are not seeing that .gov or a .edu, it may be a scam. If you aren't sure if something is a scam, please, I urge you to reach out and ask. If for no other reason than I don't hear about scams until someone tells me about scams. Who can you get help from free? Who can you get help from for free? There are immediately, beyond myself, you may not like me for one reason, I may be inconvenient, whatever, I get it. There are two other categories of people that exist for nothing other than to help small businesses like yours with, say, a certification problem, how to put together a bid for the federal government, how to get registered in SAM. There are two types of people. At every agency who buys something, there is someone on staff whose job is to make it easier for small businesses like yours to interface with their agency. Those people are called OSDBUs. In town, I can give you an example of the deputy small business over at the core is named Brooke Patterson. Down in the Enterprise Center, down Philly, we have Tiffany Spraggins Payne, who is an amazing OSDBU with DOT. These folks belong to their agencies, and they specifically help you work with their agencies. Conversely, we have awesome people called PTACs. We would normally have one on today, but they're having a big conference. PTACs are procurement technical assistance centers. We also have PTAC representatives, we just call them PTACs. PTACs are folks that are funded by the DoD, SBA, and their university, and they're all equal to me level experts on contracting who can help you directly, even with things like putting together a bid. I cannot help you put together a bid because I'm federal government and I can't bid against the federal government. PTACs belong to their universities, so they can even help you put together a bid. Around here, immediately, we have a PTAC at Widener. There is a PTAC at Rutgers on the other side. There is a PTAC in Kutztown. So, and we have a small business development center who is coming close to PTAC at Temple. So I can get you help in your area if you're outside those. With that, we're at the last slide. This is my information. In addition, I was a prior federal government contracting officer, as Marla mentioned. Conversely, my second in command is named George Tapia. He is a former award-winning 8A participant in the state of California. So George has been a small business exactly like yours. And George can answer questions from the small business side. There are some ideas about the type of things that we cover. If you have additional questions about federal contracting not listed, please reach out. If I'm not the person, then I will find the person for you. In addition, if you have questions about something like contracting with the state or contracting with the government of the city of Philadelphia, please feel free to reach out. I am not the person, but I can find you the person that you need to talk. And I think that is just about it. Marla, if you want to pick back up, or I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Sure. Yeah, Jen, you just do an outstanding job in explaining something that is very convoluted, and well, you know what, it's not convoluted, it just can be complicated if you're not familiar with it. But once you get familiar with it, then it becomes second nature. And that's what we are really attempting to do with these webinars with the SBA. We want business owners to get over the fear of something that they think is complex, because once you do it, then it becomes routine. And we want you to learn the federal contracting system so that you can expand your potential opportunities for growth. Thank you, Allison, saying this was very informative.
I'm sorry, Marla, I have an answer for Allison as well. Allison had asked about small business size standards. You're saying that it's 16 million or less. Actually, size standards are not as clear as you would think, whereas at the state level, it's just the number of people or whatever. For size standards at the federal level, it depends on what you do specifically. Those NISC, NIA, or NAICS codes, sorry, dyslexia. Your particular line of business will decide what is or is not small. And so we can go through and look with you specifically to figure out if you're a small business. If you do not know that you are other than small, the vast likelihood is that you're a small business. Most businesses in the United States are in fact small.
I've put some information in the chat that can help. So if you go to some of those links, but also please make sure you get the address that I put in the chat for Jen's office. And there's an email address in there also. They are also on social media. They are accessible. All right, so let's see.
Hi, Erica. You're looking at working on your construction business to be compliant and ready to apply. Okay, yes, we absolutely have help. We can either help you directly through my office, or I'm happy to put you in touch with one of those PTACs that can help you get ready for federal contracting. But please be aware, almost everything that you could need to get spun up, we can get you someone to do it either at low or no cost, because again, we've got those sharks. There'll be a lot of people out there telling you, hey, pay me X number of dollars to get certified, or X number of dollars to get blank. Whatever blank is, please, before you shell out cash, write to me and say, is this okay? Because unfortunately, I mean, literally 3 days ago, I talked to a woman whose son went to the law clinic at Temple and got help at low or no cost. She didn't know. She hired an actual lawyer for something that was small and paid hundreds. So I know a lot of people, please don't reinvent the wheel for yourself. I met all these people. Somebody might as well benefit from it. So just give me a call, and I may probably do know somebody.
Great. We will be sending out the slides from part 1, which was on the bidding, the SBA guarantee on the bonds, the SBA bond guarantee program. Part 2, the historically underutilized business zones, the hub zones, and today's presentation. So you will get, if you registered, we're going to send those slide presentations to everyone who registered. We know there are some people who registered and were not able to attend. But we want to make sure if you registered, which to us is an indication that you're interested, then we want to make sure you get all of these slides. We will also have available for replay on the PIDC website, the actual webinar, because we know sometimes that the slides are really good, but you can miss some of the ad hoc discussion that occurs in between slides. So we want to make sure that you have access to the webinars also. We will get all of those replays posted to the PIDC website. Now let's see, thank you. Thank you to everyone. Here's a question. I'm the owner and the only employee in my business. Some of the contracts I'm capable of doing, often the contract requires many employees. Can you compete for a particular portion of a contract? So Jen, in that instance, would the owner be able to hire 1099s to assist in that contract?
Absolutely. You get into issues about things like self-performance and stuff like that, but you can absolutely have a stable of people that you only call when you have a contract. And I know a load of people do. Just be aware that as you bid for things like projects, agencies are going to say, hey, it's only you. If you win, who can you give us? So you may need to be able to give things like resumes in advance of actually doing the contract, you may need to think of those as you're putting in the bid so that you know that you'll be able to grab the right people for the right project. In addition, if you're a sole proprietor and relatively new, it may also benefit you to do a contract, like I mentioned, as a sub, because then you can learn from their mistakes and they take some of the heat off you as you learn that contracting. Somebody said, will you really help and offer assistance in the process? I tried before and got no assistance. I am very sorry for what happened. I like to think that I really help. Marla has known me for, God, an embarrassing amount of time. If I can't do it, I will at least find you somebody who can. I mean, I cover a lot of territory, but I also have a lot of friends.
And I'll say our experience with, I mean, it's whether it's PIDC, whether it's the SBA, Eastern PA District Office, when you ask us for help, it's never no. We may not be able to provide the service, but we're always going to refer you where we think you may get the answer. We're never going to tell you no, because we think if it's something that we can't do, then let's try over here where they might be able to do it. So please, if it depends on where you go, I would say though, we are economic development agencies, organizations. Our sole existence is to help you grow. And so we are sources of information. And, you know, the SBA Eastern PA District Office, I don't know what it's like in other states and in other jurisdictions, but I can tell you this is an outstanding office. I mean, we've had, Jen has come in whenever we've asked her to come in. Sonia Smith has come in whenever we've asked her. Kimberly Stout has come in. Wilma Bonilla Oliver, who is fluent, Latina specialist at the SBA. So we've worked with her on our Spanish-speaking initiative, where she has come in and conducted fully Spanish webinars for us. So it's from the top of that office to, you know, on down, everyone has been extremely helpful. I would say for the construction business, the best thing to do is go to the website for a few places. The SBA is one. Temple Small Business Development Center has a construction program that it's a 9-month program. And if it's the same, it's on Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. until 1 a.m. They're probably virtual for at least the next few months. There is a fee associated with the program, but it is worth it. So I would encourage you, if you put your email address in the chat, I will, or better yet, I'll put my email address in the chat, and please feel free to send me information, and we will get you connected to the right folks. Anything else? Yes. You're attending the Temple construction course as soon as it opens back up. That is great. That is great. Anything, the Business Center of Entrepreneurship and Social Enterprise, another outstanding organization. Pamela Rich Wheeler is the founder and the executive director there. And Pamela happens to be married to the director of the SBA office in Harrisburg, who is Solomon Wheeler. And Solomon was on this series. He was on part 1. And so if you're out, I think someone asked, you're in the Northumberland County. I'm not sure, Jen, if that is your office or if that's Solomon's office in Harrisburg.
We can always help. I mean, it isn't just if you're in Harrisburg, you have to talk to Solomon, or if you're here, you have to talk to us. It may end up being a matter of the type of help you need. So please reach out and let me know what you need in Northumberland County, and we can probably get you someone maybe even closer to you than either Harrisburg or KOP.
Great. How do you find subcontract opportunities?
How do you find, that is a great question. There is a website run by the SBA that lists subcontracting opportunities, but in a lot of instances, it helps to know someone like a PTAC. And additionally, there is a way of doing things like looking up who currently holds a contract and contacting them directly to find when additional opportunities might be available. So I'm happy to talk with anybody at any time about where they might be able to find the best help for their business and the best opportunities for their business. Because I said earlier that we buy everything, but it may be that your particular product and service is really only purchased in one part of the government or one way. And there's actually databases where we can look that up and make sure that you're really targeting your marketing.
Great. And in our first, I'm trying to look, the PTAC offices, that the technical assistance, we had 2 people on our.
I think you had Paula and Kara.
Can we get there?
Both from NEPA, which is the Northeastern Pennsylvania Alliance. They are up in Pittston.
Okay.
And that is one of our PTACs up if you're in the kind of Scranton area.
Can we get, is there one closer to this area, Jen?
The closest to Philly, I'm going to say, would be Widener.
Okay.
That is Bruce Downing and Irene, and they're absolutely amazing. I can get you the information for Widener. Otherwise, if you put in Widener PTAC or Widener SBDC into your search engine, it should come up with their information. Like I said, his name is Bruce Downing, and then Irene, I think it's Kaczynski. It's been a long time since I've had to pronounce her last name, but Irene is former Navy. She used to be an OSDBU, an Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, a small business person with the United States Navy, and has now flipped over to help over at Widener. You're in South Jersey. Yes, there is a Rutgers PTAC. If anybody needs help in South Jersey, please feel free to reach out. I can get you help in Jersey. Additionally, I used to run Jersey. Thank God they finally took that from me. But I still obviously know my staff from New Jersey. So if you need help in Jersey, I can put you in touch with me. In Jersey now is Janet Peralta, and I can get you in touch with Janet as well.
So I am putting a website in the chat, which is an SBA Locator. So if you click on this link, you enter your zip code and it will find the PTAC in your area, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center in your area. So someone put in a zip code really quickly in the chat, and I'll put it in and let you know where your 21117. Let's see.
I can't remember if that's
21117. It says Baltimore. Your district office is Baltimore District 100 South Charles Street, Suite 1201. There's also a Maryland Procurement Technical Assistance Program, 5825 University Research Court. Then there's DC. There's a District of Columbia PTAC, 4th Street Northwest. Okay, let's try 19006. 19006. And it has the Eastern, it has Jen's office first, and then it has the Southeast Pennsylvania PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, at 15220 Kutztown Road. And let's see what else they have.
We have
Someone
one at
said New
Kutztown
Jersey.
University.
Someone said New Jersey. There are some in New Jersey. University of Delaware has one. University of Delaware has a procurement center. UCEDC, Morris Avenue. I'm not sure where that is. It's like 50 miles away from the zip code that I put in. There, New Jersey has one. It's a little further away, but the closest ones is Kutztown. That from 19006, it's showing that it's 13 miles away. Okay, let's try
The folks at
19060.
Kutztown are amazing. I know both of them very well. That's Josh Kovich and Dominique Smiley. If I had problems, I would be likely to call Dominique. She's just incredible.
Great. 19060. It has Jen's office again, but then the closest PTAC is at the University of Delaware. It's showing it as 17 miles from 19060. And then the next one after that is Kutztown again. Let's do the last one will be 19121. And that is showing the same information. So it's the SBA's office, but the actual PTAC center, the procurement center, they're showing it at Kutztown Road and the University of Delaware. So from 19121, it's showing it Southeast Pennsylvania Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So please make sure you get to that website, and I will make sure that I put that website in the email that I send with the presentations. So then you can just pop in your zip code, find out all of the PTACs that are within your service area and take advantage of them. Okay, if that is it, it is 11:30. So we thank everyone for your time, for making the time to help you. As long as you want the help, we're going to be here to deliver the help to you. We also, there are some information that Jen and I are going to work out so we could do some additional webinars based on some information that came out in today's webinar and in those previous two. Just look for us on the SBA Eastern Pennsylvania District office. Make sure you are following them on Twitter. Also on PIDC, make sure you are signed up for our newsletter and following us on all social media platforms where you will get information on everything that's happening. I do want to remind you that on tomorrow, we are going to do an information session for Power Up Your Business. Please, please, you can never learn too much business education. You can never learn too much. Your road to success is based in business information. And for most of this information, you want to learn it before you make a mistake and to avoid making mistakes. So tomorrow at 2:00, please go to the PIDC website and sign up for our Power Up Your Business information session. Then we're going to do it again on April 5th. Then Goldman Sachs, make sure you're signing up for April 12th. So we're giving you some options. And so if you're not quite eligible, not quite ready for Goldman Sachs, then Power Up Your Business is the way to go. If you have finished Goldman Sachs, if you've gone through Power Up Your Business first, and then you have gone through and graduated from Goldman Sachs, there is another program we highly encourage you, and that is the SBA Emerging Leaders Program. It is in session right now. You'll hear more about that from us later on in the year, because that program will start to recruit about in December or January. So the cohort, there's a current cohort, it's run once a year. So once you finish get in Power Up. If you finish Power Up, apply for Goldman Sachs. If you have graduated from Goldman Sachs, then apply for SBA Emerging Leaders. And so it's like, you go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school, you go to college, you go to grad school, and these programs are designed just like that. So you can't jump into emerging leaders unless you have, you can't go to college until you go to high school. Can't go to high school until you go to middle school. And so these programs are designed just like that to keep you on a growth trajectory. So with that, Jen, thank you again. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time today. And we look forward to seeing you real soon at our next events. Take good care. Bye.